Good afternoon, folks, and welcome. This is the One-Up Superstar Series from Bristol Motor Speedway. The Food City 500 is set to get underway in just a few minutes' time, and we've got 150 laps of racing action to bring you here from the last great Coliseum, the High Banks of Bristol. It's our first short track race of the season for the Superstar Series, and it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody involved. Alongside me in the booth today for this race is a driver who knows his way around the short tracks. It's Turbo Truck Series Macon winner Ryan Griffin in the booth with us today. It's great to have you with us, and there's a lot to unpack about this high-banked racetrack. There's a lot that can go wrong, and there's a lot that can go right. You just got to balance risk versus reward as you battle your way around this half mile.
Yeah, it said that one of the nicknames for Bristol is it's the giant conveyor belt, and you pretty much get that. You pretty much get that at this track. It's one groove to some point. Well, until recently, it seems like they've made Bristol now where you can run two grooves, so you may see a little bit of that today. Not quite sure the drivers have been testing yet, so we'll see. We might see a little bit of that today.
Looking at the starting lineup now for today's 150 laps, Devin Thayer pulls off a bit of an upset in qualifying, notching his first career pole in the One-Up Superstar Series in just his fifth try. He lines up on pole with 2020 champion Stephen Hunter alongside him. Jeffrey Finguy runs third ahead of Daniel Bouchard and Duke Ansack rounding out the top five. So we've got a lot of big names starting at the front and a few starting at the tail end of the field, like the Atlanta winner from last time, Jared Polanski. He starts 29th in this field. He knows how to win at Bristol. He's done it before. He did it 2 years ago in the summer. But it's a whole different story coming from the back to the front. We're going to see a lot of guys have to manage their stuff to try and pick cars off one at a time, because I can take it from you. Passing cars on the short track is the farthest thing from an easy task.
It's better obviously when you have a better handling car, or better handling car, in my case a truck. But yeah, it's still difficult because especially on a lot of the short tracks where it's one groove, like last race out for me in the truck series, one groove track, there's really one line you can run, and if that lap car is running that line, it's like you gotta show a little patience in lap traffic. And you mentioned you got the Atlanta winner starting deep in the field, and you got to watch here at Bristol, because if you put yourself behind the 8 ball in qualifying and then you start lapping cars fairly early in this race, we'll see it fairly early, especially if we stay green in these early laps, that the leader's going to catch the back of that field, and when he starts lapping cars, you could be in trouble if you had trouble qualifying.
And I'm sure Devin Thayer will be up to the task. He has 2 Nitro National Series wins on the short tracks. He knows what to do, and we know what to do as well, to bring you 150 laps of racing action from Bristol Motor Speedway. And the green flag is mere moments away. Stay tuned. This is the One-Up Superstar Series from Bristol Motor Speedway. And like I said, the green flag, moments away. Don't get up for anything. With Devin Thayer on the inside, Stephen Hunter on the outside, pace car is off, we're going to the green flag, and the Food City 500 is underway at Bristol Motor Speedway. Thayer gets to a pretty good lead already going into turn 1, as Hunter runs way wide in turns 1 and 2. That allows Finguy alongside him. This is going to be very interesting to see which line will prevail in the early stages, as I see 3 wide further back in the pack.
Yeah, early on, the inside's going to be the preferred lane. You're not going to want to get off the bottom, at least early on. And as your car as you start to build in a groove and build in a line, that groove will move up the racetrack. So you may see a couple, obviously side by side. We saw 3 wide there for a brief moment there, mid-pack. But it's going to be about building the line, putting rubber down, and making a line and slowly moving that groove up. But I mean, hell, you got Hunter there, the champion there, is able to hold off Finguy on the top side, and he'll take over, hold second, see if he can try to chase down the newcomer there.
That's Devin Thayer in the 08, who has built an 0.8 of a second lead after just 3 laps, now 4. So, but we'll see what Hunter can do now that he's in fairly no traffic to speak of. He just has to worry about the 08 in front of him. But Stephen Hunter, he's trying to keep his place at the top of the all-time win list because he's in danger of losing it because Jared Polansky's only one behind him in taking that away. So Hunter needs to find a way back to victory lane to keep himself on top of the field here. But we could see a first-time winner in this race if what happened yesterday holds true here today, because Devin Fair, he doesn't seem to want to let go of this lead now that he's got it.
Yeah, but as you can see, and again, it's when it comes to short tracks, especially here at Bristol, it's all about guys that have experience and know how to work a groove until it builds up. And as you can see here, the 51 now starting to reel in Fair in the 08, ever slowly but surely. And so is the 21, I think, is reeling him in a little bit there, following the 51. That is, or excuse me, not 21, that's the 92. That car looks so familiar to another car that I've seen in another motorsports series that it's hard for me to not see a paint scheme like that and think of a different number, but I should know. That's my team owner in the truck series.
An iconic scheme for an iconic driver in Jeffrey Finguy with 6 career wins, looking for his 7th here this afternoon, but he's got to get past 2 very hungry competitors to accomplish that, and we're only coming to the end of lap 10. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in this 3-way battle, because it looks like beyond these top 3, Daniel Bouchard and Anderson Reed seem to be holding up everybody else from 4th on back. They're already 2 seconds off the lead, and they don't seem to be able to challenge one another for the position, or even come up to challenge Finguy, Hunter, and Fair up in front of them.
See, this is where I said about it takes time to build another groove, because right now these guys' cars probably aren't handling as well as the top 3, and they're stuck on the bottom. And you got a little slower car, in this case Bouchard's down here running 4th, he's on the bottom. And since there really isn't another groove there yet, everybody's just kind of stuck, the conveyor belt, as they call it, around the racetrack. And because of this, somebody who had issues in qualifying is going to put them at risk of being lapped by the leader. And it won't be long before we start looking at guys going a lap down here, and then we'll make it even more interesting, kind of force the leaders to start working a second groove. But yeah, Bouchard just kind of the roadblock right now here, and he's still qualified for us, so it's not like he's being a roadblock like a lap car, but he's got to get his butt going, or else he's going to have some drivers here behind him not very happy with him at the end of this race.
I'm sure Anderson Reed's already not very happy with the 73. He wants to get a move on. Anderson Reed, of course, started on pole for this race last year and led 48 laps, although faded to a mid-pack finish. But he's doing a pretty good job once again. How about this car? The 46 used to be driven by Chase Christ. He's gone from the series now. It's KJ Hayes in the 46, and he started in the top 10. He's currently running up in the top 10 in his 1-Up Series debut. It's an impressive showing from that 46 group, but I imagine this is a bit hitting above their weight, as they'd say. So he just wants to run all 150 laps here, get a solid feel for how this car handles on different track types. But even so, it's a very strong run from a driver who with 0 experience going into this weekend, as we now go back up to the front, see Stephen Hunter chasing down the 08, but he's still got a half-second lead over him.
You mentioned, I'm sorry if I didn't catch the name, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that. One sec.
So KJ Hayes, he was doing a really good job in the 46, hanging on to the tail end of the top 10, but it's Stephen Hunter and Devin Fair that are the stars of the show right now, and they're closing in on each other. Well, Hunter's closing in on the 08 to try and take the lead away. The gap's closed a tiny bit, but this is already more laps in this race Devin Fair has led. Actually, these are the first laps he's led in a 1-Up Superstar Series race, period. So, a very strong showing from the 08. Let's see if he can hold on for another 125.
I apologize for that. I had a little bit of a personal call that came up, but we got it taken care of. And yeah, like I said about having experience when it comes to short tracks, experience pays dividends, and as we can see here, Hunter has obviously ran down Fair quite a bit, and now comes where he really has to use that experience. He's got to see where try to find Fair's weakness right now, where he's not doing so hot. But again, he's got to start exploring that top lane, because it may be the only way around him, especially if Fair decides to just hang it right there on the white line.
Currently 1/6 of the way through this race at Bristol. Devin Fair has led every lap so far, and this is starting to become a bit of a trend at Bristol. We're hoping we can see some intense battling for the lead and some good passing for the lead, because that is what we want to see in the 1-Up Superstar Series and across all 3 series, really. But these are the best drivers we have, and to see them put on a show like they are right now, it's just what we want to see, and especially for the packed house here at Bristol watching these two. One a rookie, one a series champion, going at it for the lead here in the early stages still at Bristol.
Should also note to just keep an eye in, it's because with the way when you catch lap traffic here, the leaders can tighten up. Don't count out Finn guy there in that 92. He's not close enough to these guys, but he's just far enough back that if these guys were to get held up when they catch lap traffic, he could seize the opportunity and pounce on them. So if I'm Finn guy in this situation, you just kind of ride there. You keep an eye on what the leaders' lap times are. You keep an eye or have your crew tell you where the lap traffic is going to be and how much longer possibly until we catch that lap traffic. And of course, if you're someone as young and someone who's trying to get that experience in Devin Fair who's leading this race, same thing. You're on the radio crew. Okay, how much longer are the lap cars ahead? Are they double file up there? Are they single file? You're starting. You want to get as much information as you can about the lap traffic before you catch that traffic.
And there they are.
You can see here, it's not going to be probably not much longer before they catch that lap traffic.
Yep, you saw Diego Yepes and Andres Molina back in the 41st and 42nd positions on this track. They were only about a straightaway ahead of Devin Fair and the 08. You can see them now. It's not going to be long before the 08 catches the tail end of the field, and that could allow Stephen Hunter to close in, certainly. But like you said, Jeffrey Finguy as well. He's 1.5 seconds back, but he's in a good position. If these two start getting held up, he could claw his way back to the front, because Jeffrey Finguy won this race a year ago. So he knows how to get around Bristol, and he knows how to make up for lost time after a slow start to the season. He hasn't had a terrible start to this year so far. He had a middle-of-the-pack finish in the Pensacola 500, finished runner-up at Atlanta, but is looking for his first win of the season and to become a winner in all 3 1-Up Superstar Series seasons we've had so far. But you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the lap traffic is closing up in a hurry, and Devin Fair is getting ready to put a lap on him.
As I said, and I hate to bring back this point, but if you're Fair, you are on the radio, your crew chief, and I'm sure at this point the crew chief and the spotter are, okay, where's that lap car running? Are they going to get out of the way for me? Am I going to have to find a different lane to go around him? And as the lap car, which in this case is, I believe that's a 7.
It is the 7, Andres Molina.
7, but if you're the 7 car, you're also trying to be aware where the leader is too. Granted, yes, you don't want to go a lap down. You're gonna fight to try to stay on the lead lap, but you also don't want to just completely, be a nuisance to the leader and, have Fair lose his chance here and get passed by Hunter. So you're trying to be courteous to the leader, while at the same time be aware of your position and what you're racing for. So you kind of got to walk a fine line. So as you can see, Hunter has caught Fair, and we'll see what the champion can do here. Can he make a move on the 08 while we're here in traffic, and maybe we'll see a lead change.
That would be a welcome sight after yesterday's race, but it's still anybody's guess, because Hunter is right on the back bumper of the 08 of Fair. Devin Ferros has led the first 40 laps of this race so far. That's easily the most laps he's led in the 1-Up Superstar event, because these are his first ever laps led in a Superstar Series event. But Stephen Hunter, he's led a lot of laps and won a lot of races, the most of anyone. He knows what to do to get around meddlesome traffic to win a race, and he's looking to do just that right now. As you see side by side further up the field, Daniel Voiles and Echo Ross further up the field in the 64 and 39 respectively, and now you see Yepes getting underneath Jason Parker in the 76 as well. I don't know, them getting side by side in front of the leaders, that might be block an opportunity for someone to potentially go up to the top and try and make something happen, because now you got lap cars up there too.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see either Hunter or Finguy try to jump to that high side here, because now would be the time to do it. The leader's held up right now by a lap car running the same line he is. now would be the time to try it. You wouldn't lose too much if it doesn't work out for you because of the gap they've built to fourth place. And now would be the opportunity to try it. Try it now instead of later, and try to start working a groove in. As we can see that now the lap car has gone high, so now Fair will be able to work around the 7 here. So we'll see if he can. Oh no, Hunter's now gonna look at, and Hunter's gonna go.
There's a little bit of contact made as well between the 08 and the 51. So now they started to realize the sense of urgency, because now Finn guys caught them as well. Like you said, it might happen. So now it's a 3-car battle for the lead.
Hunter on the top side.
Yep.
Like I said, he used his experience. He realized the lap cars were slowing up the 08, and as soon as the one lap car jumped to the high side, he's like, okay, I'll jump up here and see what we can do. And now he's got Finn guy to his inside, but watch the momentum off the corner, and he should get lead.
Right there.
Yeah, easily.
Oh, yeah. So Stephen Hunter is going to make the first lead change in a race on lap number 48. So move Devin Fair back to the second position. But, man, what a job he did leading the first 47 laps of this race. That'll be something to remember for that team, because they have had 2 DNFs in the first 2 races. They need to make something special happen to get their season back on track. And right now they're doing that, running in the second position, just ahead of Jeffrey Finn guy. But now Stephen Hunter's starting to gap them a little bit. He's got over a half-second lead, but he still has some lap traffic to deal with. It's going to be interesting to see what the 51 can do that the 08 wasn't able to.
You see, this is where the crew has to be on the radio too, and I say talking to his crew, but it's just to get a little insight that they need to be on the radio to Fair right now. Tell them, hey, you led the opening 40 laps of the race. Yeah, you got around you in traffic. Just keep up what you're doing. He's doing a great job right now, running second. He led the opening 40 laps. He's right now holding off Finn guy.
And it looks like we got a caution on the racetrack. Our first of the day. Looks like we got some debris in turns 1 and 2, the result of a possible spinner. But regardless of the cause, we got a quick caution flag to come out on lap 52. These guys will be happy about that. They'll stay on the lead lap through all that. But what this will allow for is it will allow all these cars to pit under yellow and make it to the end of the race. That's one thing we neglected to mention earlier in the race. We do have a pit stop to make in this race, and now everybody will be able to make it under yellow flag conditions. So far,
yeah. So far, Thompson crew is Thompson as a driver Hunter as a driver. Sorry, my bad. As a driver is pretty much. I said about experience here, and he's pretty much showed that experience. He just kind of rode behind the rookie and seized his opportunity in the traffic, and he's the leader as we come to the stops. And I would assume a championship a driver of his experience would have a crew just as same level of experience. So I would expect him to get out here with the lead off pit stops, but you never know.
He had a big lead going in, and with the caliber of that Revolution Racing team, I'm sure he'll be able to get out. Unless Team Dayspring pulls out a lightning fast stop here, he should be pretty good, as you see Hunter just off the shot on the right-hand side. He should be. You see Devin Fair now. He's trundling down the pit lane at pit road speed, 35 miles per hour. But now, Hunter's exited the pits, and Fair and Finn guy will follow him out. This will be interesting to see who can keep the advantage on the restart, because now it'll be the leaders will line up on the top of the racetrack where they're not as comfortable running, or at least not as used to running. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do now, as some drivers may be trapped a lap down as a result of the fast pit stop out of 51. I see a few of them at the tail end of the field that may go a lap down as a result of the fast stop out of 51.
And what's also going to be interesting to watch, especially on this restart, is can Daniel Bouchard, did his crew adjust his car? Because we saw he was really kind of holding up the rest of the lead lap cars there. Granted, he was running in fourth, but it looked like he was holding up that line of cars prior to or in that first green flag run. So hopefully they adjusted his car to where he can be a little bit more competitive. And we got a spinner or pit entry.
Yep.
Or pit exit, excuse me. That's pit exit.
That's something that can definitely happen as these cars on cold tires get up to speed. As now the lights are out on the pace car. McDonald in the 12 you see in the middle of your shot. He's slowing down on the racetrack just to try and keep pace with the rest of the leaders in front of him. He'll be on the tail end of the lead lap as things stand right now, but we'll see, because we got a restart on our hands at lap 57. We've got a lot of cars now a lap down, 2 that were left on track and 3 more in the pit lane. So it'll be interesting to see, because now Hunter lines up second car on the top. He's the leader of the race, but he won't start at the head of the train. That's Ben McDonald on the tail end of the lead lap. But the pace car is off, and we're getting ready to restart this race on lap number 57.
And Hunter here has to make sure he's got to stay on the top side, try to clear that inside line, which he does off turn 2. Not quite, but he should clear it here off of 4, and then he's got to watch his pace. Right now he's got a little bit of he's got maybe a car length or 2 gap back to fair, and he's just got to watch, get information from his crew about how fast that car in front of him is going to be, to make sure that car doesn't hold him up to the point where Fair can recatch him.
Yep, because right now Devin Fair has about a half-second deficit to try and make up on the 51 of Hunter, and you can see the lap traffic just getting in the way of everybody on the track, except for perhaps the top 3. Now we're 3 wide for the 4th position. Reed, Mashburn, and Daniel Bouchard in the 73. They're running 3 wide for 4th. Bouchard wisely backs out of that before it becomes a big problem. And Anderson Reed moves up into the 4th spot, driving that number 15 for Sinclair Canada Racing.
Yeah, it's kind of a risky move if you're Reed to take it 3 wide, but I think he got tired of sitting behind Bouchard there and said, okay, if you're not going to go, I'm going around you. And he seized his opportunity.
Yep, and now Hunter comes out on top with a shorter lead than he had before, but that's just because Devin Fair managed to clear the lap car of Jeff Bolton and now move up into a pretty solid position here. But Ben McDonald is still out in front of the train. He's on the very tail end of the lead lap right now, so it'll be very interesting to see what he can manage to do here with that 51 car to try and get around McDonald, because if he can get around the 12, that'll give him a buffer between himself and the second place runner Devin Fair.
See, the other thing we also got to consider too is Fair's crew is obviously adjusted his car, so his car's not going to be the same as it was on that first run. And I noticed kind of a little bit, I noticed him doing it a little bit there about a lap or 2 after the restart. He's running a little higher going into the corner and kind of trying to diamond the corner, and he's been able to close up back on Hunter's rear bumper. And I think it's a little unorthodox line. You try to diamond the corner so you can get a little bit more of a straighter exit, but it seems to be working for him, and I guess that's where that car is running right now. And here we see Finn Guy just kind of, as I said, just kind of cruising along here in 3rd, just keeping the leaders in sight, but not necessarily pushing it right now.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is early to think about trying to push, because we're not even at halfway yet. But Stephen Hunter working to try and defend his lead from the rookie Devin Fair, and now McDonald has started to pull away from these two, so that might give Hunter a bit of clean air and some extra breathing room to try and start pushing a little bit, to try and maintain the gap ahead of Devin Fair in the 08, because they've left Jeffrey Finguy pretty far behind. So now it looks like it's going to be a battle between these two for the race win, barring another incident. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see between the rookie Fair and the veteran Hunter. This is just, anybody between these two has a shot at winning, and if another caution comes out, it opens the door for more contenders to show up. So this race is far from over, as we're closing in on the halfway lap in about 5 laps time.
And the other thing is you got to probably have like the biggest grin on your face if you're a Toyota executive right now, because they're running 1-2. You got the veteran and the champion and the rookie, and this looks like it could be a good day. Again, it's way early. We're just a couple laps from halfway, but looking like it's going to be a great day for Toyota, no matter who ends up getting this between the two of them, if it is between the two of them.
Yeah, the first 4, Jeffrey Finguy in third. The first Dodge is Daniel Bouchard in fifth. And the first Chevrolet is Miles Mashburn in sixth. So all four manufacturers represented in the top six. But three of the top four are Toyotas. So a very strong run from the Toyota camp here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We're closing in on halfway right now, but we've got a battle for fifth on our hands between the 73 of Bouchard and the 72 of Mashburn. They're currently battling it out, along with Anderson Reed ahead of them and Duke Ansack behind them to try and get that position.
I see. Now here is the problem when you have lap cars start to the inside. You got that group back there, fourth, fifth, sixth. They're stuck behind two lap cars, and that's where I said it earlier, you got to start working the top lane as early as you can, because you're going to run into a situation where the lap cars are going to be running the bottom. And if they're running the preferred groove, you got to find a way to get your car working to run a different groove so you can get around them. Otherwise, you're just basically going to have a backup, a roadblock like that, and you're just losing time to the leaders at this point. I mean, right now they are 4.5 seconds behind this battle for the lead right now, and not so much battle, but they're close. 4.5 seconds at a short track, especially here, it's an eternity.
Exactly, you're exactly right. And we're closing in on lap 80 of this race. Stephen Hunter has led since about lap 48. Devin Fair led every lap before that. It's starting to become a battle between these two alone for the race win, because Jeffrey Finguy is 3 seconds behind, and Anderson Reed's 2 seconds behind them. It's an interesting thing to keep an eye on, because Devin Fair, he's never been in a position in a Superstar Series race to try and win. So he's up against one of the best in Stephen Hunter. So, and with Jeffrey Finguy behind him, he's got to keep an eye on managing his stuff, because he doesn't want to burn out too early and lose an opportunity to win, but he also doesn't want to lay back and let Hunter get an unsurmountable gap on him. So he's got to balance between pushing and conserving to try and stay in the in contention for this race.
You see, this is where I've said it a couple times already, but this is probably the best example of it, where the crew chief has to be that motivator. He's got to reel his driver in, at the same time tell him, hey, you led 40 laps earlier. You can lead ahead of Hunter. It's not like you can't get around him. It looks like there's a couple of points so far since his restart where he did close, and then he just kind of backed off and rode. Now it looks like he's closing just a little bit again, and you just got to let the race play itself out, and you got to let the rookie know, just because you lost the lead the way you did doesn't mean you can't go up there and get it back. It's just, you got to save your stuff, you got to be conservative. I kind of like the position Finguy's in right now. Granted, he's, 3, almost 4 seconds back at the lead, but he's got nobody around him. He can run his own race. There's still a lot of laps left in this race. And then obviously, the positive to being the leader right now. You got the experience of the past champion, a guy who knows how to win races, knows how to win on a short track. It's kind of a nice blend up here. You got the experience, you got the rookie, and then you have, I guess you could say, more experience, or another experienced guy, but we're just going to have to see how this plays out. It's kind of an interesting situation we have here.
Closing in on 60 laps to go at Bristol, and Stephen Hunter has about a 2/10 lead over Devin Fair and a 4.5 second lead over Jeffrey Finguy. So it's beginning to look more and more likely that these two will be the one battling it out. Barring another yellow flag, of course. We've seen cautions change the complexion of races before this season, and even this weekend. So it's very well possible, but the field's starting to string itself out now, and I'm not sure if we're going to have enough cars running in one big pack to even end up being in a big accident like we saw before. It's just going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on for the rest of this race, because looking at 4th through 10th is separated by just 1 second. So I imagine everyone 11th on back is similarly bunched up together. It could result in a serious accident and bunch up the field once again, because we're closing in on 50 to go here.
We're also going to have to watch, too, is these leaders, like we saw in the first run, lap traffic could play a big factor in this race and could very easily pull drivers. We saw it happen earlier with Finn Guy was pulled back into the battle with these two when they caught the lap traffic. So lap traffic can very easily turn the tide of a race on a short track, and all about how you catch them, how about you negotiate them, and how they can play a role. Like right now, we're seeing how much of an issue they're being for basically this battle from fourth on down. You got 2 lap cars in front of Reed here, and I don't know if the top side just hasn't come in for these guys, or these cars aren't just handling as good to run the top side, but they have not yet made a move on those 2 lap cars, and it's allowed, obviously, the top 3 to get away.
And now you can see lap traffic starting to become a factor once again as the front of the field catches the back of the field. And Ben McDonald's starting to look excited about that, because now he can start working on getting around cars for track position. McDonald is racing the cars ahead of him for position. Hunter and Fair are not. So McDonald can afford to take more risks in passing these guys and trying to improve his running position even higher. But for Hunter and Fair, it's all about methodically picking off drivers one by one. As you see, they're running side by side in front of these guys. You see Henley up there, Henry Thomas, Aiden Clare in his last ride with the Carter Racing System team, Echo Ross as well. These guys are just trying to stay on the lead lap and doing whatever they can to accomplish that. As you see a little bit of contact made between Clare and Henley in the 00 and 42 respectively. But they got to be looking in their mirrors, and they got to be seeing that the leaders are coming. With a third of this race still to run, it's anybody's guess what'll happen when the leaders catch the lap traffic.
And see, this is my own personal preference, but as a leader, you really don't want anybody in front of you to, that way it doesn't mess up your concentration. But I would like to have, if in a position if I was in Hunter's position, to have a tail-ended lead lap car like the 12 that, as you said, can afford more risk, can afford to race the cars ahead of him a little racy, a little more aggressive, because he may open up a lane for you that you can just easily fill the hole and follow him on up. But again, the downside and the flip side of that is, say he runs into one of these lap cars, creates an incident, suddenly you're a piece of it. So it's kind of like a double-edged coin. Like, you want to have a car in front of you that can open the hole for you, but you don't want them to do it so aggressively that it puts you in a bad situation.
Certainly the case, as now it's starting to form a train behind behind the leaders. The lap cars are forming a train in front of them, and it's just starting to get a bit messy here at the front, as now McDonald tries to move up high, maybe to get a run on Ross in the 39, but if he's not careful, that could allow Hunter an opportunity to lap him again. And Ben McDonald, he's worked so hard to try and stay on the lead lap through all this. It'd be a shame if he lost the lead lap, all because of trying to get around another lapped car, in this case the 39 of Echo Ross. But right now, Hunter and Fair are establishing their dominance over the field. Finn Guy's 5.6 seconds back. Anderson Reed 9 seconds back. It's insane how these guys have checked out from the rest of the field, because we didn't see this a whole lot in yesterday's race. It just goes to show you, these guys are much more seasoned drivers and know how to establish themselves at the front of the field in a big way, as we're seeing right now, because now we're closing in on 40 laps to go, and it's still anybody's guess between these two.
The other thing I've noticed too, because we really didn't see a lot of it, and we talked about how they're being, and we've seen a little, as I say that as the lap car goes to the top side, but we really haven't seen these guys explore the high lane. Like I said, that pack back around 4th and 5th that got caught behind the 2 lap cars, they haven't been working the top lane. And even now, I'm watching Fair here behind Hunter, and he's kind of hesitant to run the top lane. And it's interesting, because if somebody could run the top lane, they could make some serious time right now. But evidently, these cars are not either adjusted well to the top lane, or the guys are not comfortable enough to start running up there as much as we did see Hunter get the lead from the top side, but I don't know. I have to see if Fair can brave the top side and try to make a move here.
It's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I say that a lot, but I don't say it for that reason, as now Fair has caught Stephen Hunter right on the back bumper at a 51, and with less than 40 laps to go, this is going to be a very interesting battle, because these laps go by really quickly. We're closing in on the end of this race already, even if we've got 39 to go, and these two... And you notice Finn Guy clawed back about a second of their gap right there. And now you see Jeff Bolton, who's a lapped car himself. He's caught the two leaders. So this is them being held up by the lap traffic is allowing other cars to close back in on them. So they can't dawdle past these guys, but they also can't make any rash mistakes because it could take them out of the race altogether.
And you're also trying to be aware this is where you have to have that communication with your spotter. Your spotter's letting you know, okay, what's going on 2 or 3 cars ahead of you, so you know, hey, they're double file ahead of you. Hey, they're rubbing against each other ahead of you, so you can be a little more aware and be cautious. But at the same time, you know, 1-2 is sitting here nose to tail. Neither one are really making a move. It's almost like they're just kind of waiting to see if a move happens, and there goes Hunter to the top side. So I think he's finally going to get around the 12 here. He's going to follow the car ahead of him.
Yep, and all of Ben McDonald's work to try and stay on the lead laps, all for naught. He goes a lap down in the end to Stephen Hunter, and he's going to try and stick with the 51 to try and get around the other cars this Toyota tries to pass. It's going to be interesting to see who and when he can get around them. But looking back now, oh man, you see Aiden Clare almost brushed the wall up ahead of these guys, and that's something they got to keep an eye out for as well. Accidents in front of these guys, and that could allow a bit more players into this game. Because it's you see Finn Guy, he's 4.2 seconds off the lead. Normally you'd say, oh, that's you can't make that up. It's Bristol. It's a tiny track like that. And for these guys, it's even worse. They're 9 seconds back. They're like, there's no way. But if a caution comes out, that could bunch up the field, and it could allow these guys back into the mix. Because if they can get ahead of these lapped cars on a restart, that could open the door for something truly special at the end of this race, because it's not completely over yet, as now we have 30 laps to go.
Yeah, you get a caution and a double file restart, the lap cars to the inside.
I hate to interrupt, but we've got a smoker on the bottom. It's Diego Yepes in the 77. His race is done on lap 121. He will be the first retiree from this race on the 121st lap. It's a shame for him, but he was already at the tail end of the field. He'll, I'm sure, be looking forward to next week at Monza, our first road course of the season. That'll be a lot of fun to behold for these guys taking on a 200-mile-an-hour road course. It'll be a lot of fun then, but we're focused now on the remaining 30 laps of this race at Bristol, because Stephen Hunter is starting to gap Devin Fair a little bit. He's up to half a second's advantage. So now Hunter's got a bit more breathing room, and now he's seeing cars fall out of the race. He knows he can't be too rash about this, but he also knows he's got to get a move on, because if Fair gets around the 12, he'll be right back on the bumper at a 51 before you know it.
And what's interesting, too, and I kind of kept an eye on it through as we were wanting, and as you were mentioning about us, Yepes' motor failure there, that this 08 car just doesn't seem to be able to run the top side like the 51 is. And I think the 51 is the only car I've really seen that's been able to jump up to that top side, been able to pass cars up there. So maybe it is that just Hunter just has that car right where he wants it. He can run either the bottom or the top, depending on where he needs to run. And he's just trying to show some patience. You know, that's the experience of being a past winner and a past champion. You know when to go, you know when to keep it reserved, and as he goes around this lap car on the top side, you know, proves my point. You know, he times his moves. He doesn't take any unnecessary risk, and right now he's got 2 lap cars now between him and Fair. So I think this is, as this race goes on, it's looking more and more like it's going to fall into the hands of this 51 car. And
he's built a half-second lead over Devin Fair, but it's a bit early to, well, I wouldn't say a bit early. We're closing in on 20 laps to go after all. But, you know, it's never too late to start thinking about the big picture. Stephen Hunter's had a miserable start to this season. 2 DNFs in the first 2 races. He's mired deep in the points. He needs a good run here, and a win, and a max points win, would certainly help him in his bid to win this, to move up in the points, because he's outside the top 30 right now, a very unusual position for a former champion to be in. But now, as you see Devin Fair close up onto the back bumper of the 51 again, both Hunter and Fair need to move out the points, and can they really afford a third DNF in a row to start the season? I wouldn't think so.
3 DNFs in 3 races would not be a good way to start a season. I mean, just my experience in other racing series, the better you can start a season, granted, you don't want to, you win 3 races in a row to start the season and then just fall off a cliff, you don't want that, but a race like today, especially for this 51, for this 08, that have had rough starts to the season, even if some major incident happens where they both, they don't win the race, but they finish top 5, you take that and you run with that to the next week, because that's a momentum builder. You can build momentum going into the next week and start getting some decent finishes. And although at this point, the way this 51 car is run today, it would take something notable for him to end up losing this lead, because he is just picking him up and putting him down, as we say.
He's extending his lead over Devin Fair, too. It's almost 9/10 of a second now, and he's got 2 buffers between himself and that 08, because now Echo Ross and Jeff Bolton are both in between the 2 leaders. So that now the gap is increasing. Hunter's got to be thinking he can start relaxing now, as they're swerving now to avoid a second accident in this race. Oh, it's a big one too. Stephen Hunter.
Did Finn guy get the lead?
I think he might have. He swept around the top of both the 08 and the 51, and scoring says the 92 is your new leader after all that. So Jeffrey Finn got a masterful job avoiding a late race accident here. And for Jake Uhalik, who's involved in this one, that's their 3rd DNF to start the season, not what the 4 team wanted. Kason Cooper, he's done for the race as well. But Jeffrey Finn guy that might have just changed the race entirely, because now Finn guy's the one in the catbird seat, and
it cost him big here so far.
Yeah,
I think he saved his car. But.
Yep, this is where it started with Stephen Gale, Jake McMillan, Jake Uhal, Kason Cooper, and Henry Thomas plowing into this as well. You see Hunter have to come to a full stop to avoid getting involved in the wreck himself, and that allowed Fair to get around him and Finn guy to get around both of them. So now,
I hate to interrupt you, but I noticed down at the bottom of the screen we were talking about the 12 car earlier and how he fought so desperately to stay on the lap. The hole closed up, and man, Finn guy, he must be.
He's got to be lucky. We're on board with him right now, and you can see he goes up high to try and avoid all the cars piling up the bottom. He sees the 2 leaders slowing down on the bottom, and he just swoops around both of them and takes the lead for himself. This is just.
What's also interesting to note here too, the car in front of him, the 59, scraped the wall coming off turn 4. Finn guy kept it out of the fence too. So not only did he avoid the incident, he didn't get any damage from trying to ride the wall through the incident. So now he's going to have a lap car between himself, at least a lap car between himself and the 08. So
since we're under 10 laps to go when we get this restart, it will be a single file restart. So you're right, Finn guy has the lap car of Molina in between himself and Devin Fair, and now Stephen Hunter will line up 5th on the top because he's got a lap car in between him and Devin Fair. So now the top 3 are all separated by lapped cars. Actually, Stephen Hunter's going to line up 7th in line because he's got 2 lap cars in between himself and Devin Fair. Make that 3 lapped cars in between himself. So this is going to.
I mean, we were sitting here talking about Hunter may have had this thing on cruise control. Now Finn guy's in the catbird seat now because the lap car between himself and the 08, and then Hunter being as back as he is with the lap cars there. Finn guy may have just backed into one.
And he'll certainly take it after a near miss at Atlanta the race before. As the lights are out on the pace car, we'll be going green this time. We'll have 9 laps to go to decide this race. And I think you're right. Jeffrey Finn guy might have just backed into one here. But we still have 9 laps left to decide this race. Devin Fair could pose a late race challenge. We never know. But coming off of turn 4, the green flag's back out. We're underway for a 9-lap dash to settle the winner of the Food City 500 here at Bristol.
Interesting to see with his 08 because he has not been able. It seems like that car has been on the bottom this whole race. He really hasn't seemed to test that top lane. Now's the time he's going to have to do it because he's got to get around this lap car quick enough to be able to get a run at Finn Guy.
And now Finn Guy's starting to pull away from the lap car of Molina. Fair's stuck behind the 7. He can't quite get around, so unless the 7 has an issue and has to bail out, that's going to allow Finn Guy to just pull away even further. This is going to be a very interesting battle for the win of this race, because now you see Hunter hasn't been able to get around any of the lap cars he was behind. He's already fallen a second off the pace. His chances of winning might have just gone down the tubes. But it's Jeffrey Finn Guy out in the lead of this race with 6 laps to go. He's going to try and win this race for the second year in a row, and he's in a very good position to accomplish that here and now, because we're coming to 5 to go, and Devin Fair can't get around that lap car of Molina.
And again, I think it's because that '08 car, whatever they did to it, it's just, I don't know if that car is just from the start of the day, it seems like that car has not been able to jump up to try to work a second groove. It seems like that car has just been stuck to the bottom all day, and then now it's going to cost him because he can't get by the lap car to get a chance at Finn Guy.
We've now got 4 to go, now 3.5 to go, and Jeffrey Finn Guy has got to be looking back and seeing that Monster Energy Dodge behind him and thinking that's the best thing he can see right now. With 3 laps to go in this race, Jeffrey Finn Guy, he's got a car in between himself and the second place runner Devin Fair. This is just going to be a very interesting sight to see if Jeffrey Finn Guy can hold on for just 2 more laps. This will be an incredible story of a come-from-behind victory. Quite unusual for the 6-time winner, soon to be 7 if he holds on here, and he will tie Jared Polanski on the all-time win list if he can hang on for 1.5 more laps.
The 08, yeah, just struggling. Still got to tip your hat to that 08 bunch, even if they come out of here with the second, which it looks like they're going to. Great run for them today, and you feel real bad for that 51, to lead as many laps as he did, and looks like it's not going to be the case. Yeah,
but coming off of turn 4, Jeffrey Finn Guy's going to be happy. He's going to take his 7th career win in the 1-Up Superstar Series with a victory in the Food City 500 at Bristol. Devin Fair gets his career best finish in 2nd. Stephen Hunter will have to settle for 3rd, but it's a good points day for the 51 regardless. Anderson Reed, in his 35th try, gets his first career top 10 in 4th, ahead of Miles Mashburn 5th. Daniel Bouchard 6th, Justin Hutchinson 7th, Nelson Reeves, Roberto Crown Jr. Gets his 3rd top 10 in as many races in 9th, and Blair in the 19 runs out the top 10. After a very wild race to close out here at Bristol, but in the end, Jeffrey Finn Guy was the best at avoiding that late race wreck, and that's what got him the win here today.
Yeah, let it be known that anybody that doesn't say that at least some element of luck happens in racing, all you do is put yourself in a position. Finn Guy wasn't the fastest car, he wasn't the dominant car, yet he was in the right place at the right time, and he's the one that leaves here today with a win.
So from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, we say goodbye from Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll see you next week in the Italian countryside at Monza for our first road course race of the season. It's one of the most popular races on the schedule, and we're looking forward to bringing it to you. And we'll see if Stephen Hunter can get back-to-back wins in that race, because Jeffrey Finn Guy certainly did that here at Bristol. He's got back-to-back wins in the spring race at Bristol, and with a 2nd and a 1st in the last 2 races, he's getting 2022 off to a very good start in that number 92 Ford Mustang.
Does that mean I can put in my order for the Finn Guy Bristol winter gear for next year now?
You'll have to ask him, but so long from Bristol. It's been a pleasure bringing you the action. We'll see you next week at Monza.